Oh yeah, I have. Are you trying to do it?
No, but in my head I thought I had like a funny joke like, right, imagine if this was your intro music. If that was his intro music. You gotta watch the videos that come with it, because it's a bit weird, but you're basically doing like a little, it's like a gully creep thing to this song, but yeah.
No, that's a bit of a magazine. Bringing the black creatives in there. But yeah, it's a weird one, because if people appear white but they're actually biracial, it's like they end up in a mad grey area where like they get to avoid a lot of the overt racism, and a lot of them get to hear discussions that we're not privy to,
Right.
because we're obviously like, they see us, nigga, oh, can't say that.
Right.
You know how them lot are.
Yeah,
But then these lot are hearing a magazine, and then they always have to be torn. Like, do I speak up, let everyone know where I am, or who I'm from, where I'm from, blah blah, or do I just let this one roll, keep the job sweet, all of that? So it's a bit of a tight one, because it's like, if you had the option, if you could like opt out of being black,
I'm dead.
how many people do we know that would have opted out?
100%.
Like, it's like, this is not,
100%.
we're not adding to the difficulty of our life.
Can you
But
imagine?
if you could just be like, oh, if I don't speak, they'll never know I'm black. Like,
Yeah.
So at the same time, like, I don't blame them, but
There's a lot of
It's
mixed
a weird
race, white passing people who,
Yeah.
when they are in spaces of white people, don't challenge racist conversations or stereotypes, and even like propagate them.
Yeah.
So when Rem is saying, now that everyone's kind of aware of some of the issues that black people are dealing with, especially people who obviously are darker skinned or whatever, how much, not say how much value can they bring to the conversation, but I do hear what Rem is saying about, okay, you haven't really experienced this, you really kind of moving, you got to come at it kind of like you're a white person, really, and just support the cause, because certain privileges we're not privy to.
Yeah.
Exactly that, man. Exactly that. But I don't know how much, like you said, how much can they actually add to the conversation, because in reality they haven't been like, they probably haven't had a lot of the microaggressions that a lot of us have experienced.
I think they do, but I think it's just obviously not to the extent at which we receive it, because they get like biracial people get fetishized as well for being biracial, having black
features and
features,
stuff.
but not being black. I feel like they
Yeah.
have their own thing, but I do think that, not to sound rude, I just don't think it's the maddest thing happening right now.
Yeah.
You know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a sticky one, man, because it's even like seeing this whole Doja Cat thing.
Oh my god.
You need to
Doja
talk
Cat.
me through that.
Cancel.
So essentially, she's white passing, but she's mixed race.
Yes, I think one of her parents is South African.
Yeah, so she's
white.
got a South African.
Yeah.
I think it's her dad. But long story short, she's always been like, she's almost like a troll, innit? She does a lot of stuff that's troll-esque,
Oh.
And then
like going into them web chats and them web rooms, like
that's what she's
Tumblr
recently-
period, bookiness. Yeah.
She went into one of them
Dark web, bro.
Yeah, what they called incel pages, and she was just saying like, nigga with a hard ER, bro, the hard one, and like they were all giggling. They were like, you can't say that, but obviously it was a big banter thing. Like, it was nuts. It was a wild.
What she was saying was she went into these web rooms or web chats when she was super young, as they always say, they were young and naive.
I didn't know what I was
She
doing.
said that she would get loads of racist things said to her, so she basically would like say it and like reclaim it and not give them power over her, basically. So she would say the maddest things. There's a lot of things that she said that people are like, bruv, you're popping now, but you've said a lot of toxic things. And obviously she made a song called Didn't Do Nothing. She made it a while ago, I think like around 2013, 2014.
Okay.
Now, Didn't Do Nothing is like it's kind of like it's not a slur, but basically white racist people have used Didn't Do Nothing to basically talk about the Ferguson rioters when my man got shot by police. That they were saying, okay, but you didn't do nothing. So it's kind of saying this is happening to you, but you didn't do nothing. So she's now taken that and made a song about it. She said she didn't mean it in that way, but it's come across toxic.
Yeah.
And I think
highly.
For me, obviously, it just looks like standard self-hating, like toxic self-hating type of situation.
Yeah.
But it's just mad though, like everyone gets a chance to mature and grow out of these negative toxic views. Like how about we just don't have them in the first place?
Yeah, it's true. Well, yeah, it's tight, man, because that's also the other dilemma that a lot of people talk about is like, so you have a biracial family, and then there's either lack of influence or the lack of the other party. Then they grow up in a white bubble, so they grow up as any other white kid would have grown up.
Right.
And like, even if you see a lot of white kids, if they have naturally curly hair, they do everything to like get rid of the frizz and all this.
Right.
So it's like when that's then applied to a black kid or a biracial kid, it has different connotations. But it's like for them, they don't even see it like that because they would do it to their white kid as well. Is the way they see it. They don't understand the impact's like completely different if it's a biracial kid. So it's a weird one.
But I even feel like this is where the issue comes. Like this is where the issue is pressing, because you've got systemic racism, institutional racism that's like perpetuated everywhere. Universities, colleges, primary schools, secondary schools. How many of us have had teachers say mad things to us, sly things? I remember primary school teachers would say to the kids that Africa's a desert, proper mad things, and not like mad things. And obviously now people are a little bit more conscious of knowing that you can't say that, that's socially unacceptable. But back in the day, I think people were a bit more like, yeah, Africa's a desert, they they've got water pumps and that. And I'm just there thinking, what? So I've come home now and said to my parents, and they're like, bruh.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I feel like where education system fails black people is that they're teaching us a warped view of history.
Yeah, but that's because all of our teachers already have that warped view. So we don't have many teachers that are from where we're from. Like I saw online one time, like yesterday or something like that, someone said, how many black teachers, how old were you when you had your first black teacher?
I can't even remember.
And I was in secondary.
Yeah, 8 or year 9.
Only had one that I can remember. Yeah, I can only remember one.
Music as well.
Yeah, mine was obviously my Spanish teacher. But then it's like, that's quite wild that we're in like one of the most multicultural cities in the world, and I had one black teacher. So it's like, it's one of them ones where if we're not represented in education, then it's gonna be hard for us to educate ourselves properly. Because even, I don't know, you probably didn't see, but that guy, I can't remember his name now, that was on I think it was like GMTV or whatever it was, Good Morning Britain, and he was basically, he was an actor in the BBC TV show that's in the Caribbean. Anyway, it's on
that little prick. Sorry, pardon my language. That guy.
Yeah, bro. So it's in Guadeloupe, and man said, he was worried for his son. He was worried for his son because he was becoming too Caribbean. This is the direct quote. He was becoming too Caribbean.
He's not wearing shoes.
Yeah, he refused to wear shoes, and he was no good at English or maths.
Drinking coconut milk and that, and wanting him to drink coconut milk.
And I was like,
coconut water and stuff. And I'm thinking, you're saying this with your whole chest on television.
During all this, like, we see what's going on, and it's like, bro, like, do they think that like our solicitors and our surgeons and that are just barefoot? Like, man's doing open heart surgery, no shoes.
And he was like, I've got to bring him home. I've got to bring him home to get him educated. I just thought, wow.
It was mad.
Wow.
It was mad, bro. And then everyone jumped to his defense, like,
Did they?
No, like, the usual suspects jumped to his defense, and they were like, he didn't mean it like that.
I forgot. Every day we didn't mean it. That's how it came out.
Wording, blah, blah. But they wouldn't say it against certain other races, because, like, there's certain things they would know better than to say. Like, it's wild. Like, people have a certain level of respect through what seems to be fear.
But why do you think that is? Why do you feel that?
I think it's fear.
Why do you feel like certain other groups get that more? We can call it respect. We can call it reservation, whatever. But let's say like everyone gets the heat. But why is it that, for example, no one talk about Jews in a derogatory way. No one talk about Muslims even now, too tough. Islamophobia is not an issue. You don't talk about it in a derogatory way. If you do, you're shunned. Homophobia, you don't talk about LGBTQ people in a derogatory way. Why is it that with black people it's like, yeah, you know, you get away with a cheeky comment, but everyone else there's a reservation before. I feel there's a reservation before.
It's a power game, isn't it? Like, out of every type of group, whether it's like the LGBT community, the Jewish community, Muslim, like each kind of group has
Have clout.
Have power. Do you know what I mean? And they have backing. So
right.
And
that's true.
In a sense, the black community hasn't really got that support system within it, which means that it's almost like it's almost like a divide and conquer, which is what it's kind of always been. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if one person gets targeted more time, there's only really going to be a few people that will back them, not a whole kind of community.
Yeah,
it's triggering though. When you say that, it triggers me bare. I don't know why, because even though I feel like we're not as divisive as we might be, yeah, man, that's just peak. And even like, I don't know if you lot watched Pastor Toby, the leader of SPAC Nation, and his interview with ZZ Mills, and he was basically saying the same thing. And the only reason why I didn't take to how he said it was the arrogance they come with.
Yeah,
but he was basically saying how black people don't have nothing to offer me. Like, we're not unified. We don't have no community. I don't know. It's kind of like a hard pill to swallow.
Because it's that lack of unity and the lack of anything to offer that means that no one fears any punishment. If you don't fear punishment, unfortunately, that's the world, isn't it?
Yeah,
like people,
exactly.
a lot of people don't not do things because they're wrong. They don't do it because they don't want to get punched up, or they don't want to go jail, or they don't want to lose business, they don't want to lose money.
Get sued, right?
But very few people out here doing stuff because it's wrong. And that's the worst 100%. Way. Because like we've seen so many men that, like, for example, if they feel like they can get away with raping someone, then it's all fair game.
A lot.
Like they feel like, oh well, get me, she's a hoe, bro. No one ain't gonna believe you. Then they're passing through regardless, bro. So it's like
toxic.
That's just the world that we live in. Is if you can't physically stop me and you can't prevent me through other means, whether that be jail or get me, your big brother's gonna punch me up or something like that. Then a lot of people, it's just like, well, it is what it is. Then I can and you can't stop me. So
if I can get away with it, I'm gonna get away with it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
trust me.
So it's a bit of a madness like that. And until we change that, that's why this whole push for like black business and black unity on that front, because with money will come influence and power.
Do you think that's going to work here? Because I feel like in America, I do feel like they have more of that sense of unity just because of that shared experience. But obviously, come the UK now, not to say that the UK is any better, but
yeah, the way we're
our individual experiences as black people are different, just based off where we come from. Yeah. Do you feel like, I'm hoping that we're going to do the whole black-owned businesses and buy in more from people in our community, but do you feel like it's going to have as much weight? Because my only concern is everyone's getting radicalized right now. Everyone is like deep in what's really going on. And people are posting on socials and people are saying stuff and and they're doing things and it's great to see. But my only concern is, for me, is like the only real like way we can like actually like politically make change is getting them at their pockets. Yeah. And if 100%. if we don't make that personal political conscious choice of I'm making sure that I spend my pound, I'll spend an extra pound to go to my brother's shop, then go to this man's shop when it's 50p. Do you know what I mean? If I have to pay £2 for it, I'll pay £2 for it. I don't know. I personally don't know if we're there.
No, but I think we're like the powers that be were a lot smarter here, in the sense that they put us en masse in places that we now can't afford. So like in America, in certain places, a lot of black people do own. Because it's there'll be a whole community where they were forced like through segregation and stuff like that for generations. Right. So their granddad does own the corner shop. Right. Or their granddad does own a little garage and
restaurant. Right.
Yeah, just because it's only been black. So if they wanted to eat in a restaurant, there has to be a black owned restaurant. Right. If they wanted to have a garage to fix their car, it had to be a black owned. Whereas here, like you can see all the areas, especially like for example London, Brixton gone, Hackney gone.
Hackney's gone.
Like all these places are gone. Right. And So where would you spend your pound if you wanted to own a business now in Brixton, in even Lewisham, even
It's so expensive now.
I mean,
Even
Hackney,
Peckham.
all these
Don't
places.
even try Peckham, right?
Croydon's the next one.
Croydon, what?
Your pockets need to
Wild.
be deep, so you
Yeah.
can't even jump on. You can't even jump on the wheel to start it turning.
It's crazy.
Well, what we need to do is a Mazine. We need to organize, move into one of these deprived, traditionally white areas. Go to like
no, for real.
Accrington, move up like Accrington, buy these man out, buy up their business, and just be importing blacks up from London,
Yeah,
Manchester, these
yeah.
areas.
We
And
have
just
to,
start-
man,
I mean-
because
Start building on that.
I mean, like, I feel like there's a lot that we can learn from the past, innit? Like when I guess the majority of the Caribbeans came over, what they did was a partner, innit?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like,
You
they
all-
would all live in one house originally. They would all work, and then they'll all put money into a pot,
right.
and then they'll give that lump sum to one individual. They would move out, do the same thing.
Oh, I love
they would
that.
move out,
Yeah.
same thing. Do you get what I mean?
Love that.
So it's like they and that's what the Asians have always done.
Always. Them man
They
own
import
property.
from back home, bring them here, do the same partner. Then they have their
Bro.
shops, their hotels, their this,
Bro.
their that.
The
Do you
worst
know what
thing
I mean?
is when
So-
you deep it, it's everyone except us.
Everyone.
Arabs have done it with
Yeah,
Edgware Road.
100%. Do you know what I mean?
You've got
So
Jewish people with what is
Stanford-
it?
Stanford
Stanford Hill.
yeah,
Everyone, bro. Even if there's a lot of white dons that were doing it, so they let their kids stay a lot longer at yard, and their kids are working full time, bro. Some of them in the city, but the parents are like, well, you don't really have to pay rent like that. You can help out if you can, but if you can't,
Save
Yeah.
your money.
yeah, save your money
Right.
for your help. Whereas we're being taught from the jump, like as soon as you click over to 18, what you
I
got
think
for
it's a
man?
generational thing.
Yeah, because we
So I
wouldn't
feel
move like that
like-
with ours.
yeah.
But
yeah, of course.
yeah, the way they saw it was they were training us up for a hard world, and I hear that, but at the same time, they didn't make it that much easier. Like,
Yeah, I think our parents' generation have done mad. Like the amount of sacrifice.
yeah,
Of
100%.
course.
You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just grinding, and obviously coming to a place like the UK back in the day was not easy.
Mm.
So in them kind of situations, in necessity, you have to just work together. You have to, otherwise it's like it's them and us. Like we'll die. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I think now our parents came with the idea of making our lives easier. As for them, it was kind of like, cool, we've made it. As in, we've come here, we've made it, we've done it. But
Yeah.
our kids are here; they're gonna do the next thing. And I think us, I don't know. I'm not saying that we've let them down, but it's like I feel like we've just taken it a bit too easy. It's like once you make it, you go out the hood, and that's it. You detach yourself from your community. And I think a lot more people identify with their income than they do with their blackness. I've had a lot of people who are like, I've worked hard for what I've got, and have this sense of like detachment from people who live in blocks or people who live in like, bro, like when most of us are closer to being homeless than being millionaires.
Oh,
and I feel
100%.
like,
Yeah.
why do you feel that just because you're making 50k, 60k, 70k, even 30k, that it's okay for you to think that you don't need to contribute or help your community?
Yeah,
Whether
yeah.
that's your country, whether that's black people as a whole, like I don't know. I just feel like certain things it just doesn't add up.
But
Don't add up.
I think this whole, so not just Corona, but this whole period. So Corona coupled with like the resurgence of like Black Lives Matter, etc., etc. So seeing Boyega come out,
I love
and
him.
and move how he was moving.
I hope he's eating today.
And even the fact that he openly said, "Boom, doing this
Might
is
lose a
likely,
career.
is likely to rattle me off," and it's nuts. So, because obviously, as black people, this has all been something we've spoken about in private between each other, blah blah. But for this to be, it's sort of like when that woman said, "Oh, I'm going to call the police on an African American." It's like we've all discussed that, they're doing it because they're white. But for it to be explicit, we were like, okay, so we're not crazy.
Right.
And it's the same with this. You're like, okay, so if I speak on my people and suddenly I'm not getting hired the same as I was, or the boss is making me do shit jobs.
Right.
Was that because I spoke, or is this just, it would have happened anyway and I just happened to speak at the
No.
wrong time? So it made you feel crazy.
100%.
But now seeing it so open, so explicit,
Yeah.
it's like, it's been like revolutionary.
I think that's what the UK does. I think I think at least with America, like call me a nigger to my face, and they're very overt with their racism.
Yeah.
And their institutions are very, very overt. Like the school to prison pipeline, very overt how they discriminate. In the UK, it's like they gaslight us,
Yeah.
They make us feel mad. like what we're experiencing is not happening.
Yeah. Or
And
it's for something
do you know
other
what I
than
mean?
race.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not because you're black, it's because you're poor.
Yeah.
You just happen to be black. Or it's not because you're...
You didn't
you're
work
poor.
hard enough.
Yeah, it's because you
Mhm.
live in Camden. It's
Yeah,
like, what?
yeah.
Like,
One of your parents didn't go uni, like
Yeah,
bare reasons,
bare
like loads of
additional-
they make us feel mad, and I feel that people are saying it and people are coming out with their own experiences, so it's making people feel like, right, I'm not just the only one. Like
Yeah,
this has
yeah.
happened to a lot of people.
and it's the fact that we're getting a lot now in 4K, bro. Like, no more of these pixelated videos where
I'm
people say, well, I
screaming.
didn't see the hands. I couldn't see the hands. You can see you can see the bead of sweat on man's
That's in
forehead,
4K.
yeah. The bead of sweat on man's forehead.
I'm done.
Yo, I did, yeah.
Man talk about allow me, and they're grabbing man up. Man's like, I'm not resisting. And they're still folding man up like a chicken wing, yeah.
Stop.
No.
Stop
We're not
it.
trying to air it. We're not trying to air it, yeah. So, yeah, seeing all that has made us feel like, okay, so it wasn't just me getting violated, it's all of us. So now we need a collective movement against it.
Right.
And that's where we're coming with these protests and this resistance we now have.
Right.
The only hope is,
We keep it up.
yeah, because that seems to be what they're playing now. So the fact that they haven't clamped down super hard and they're letting it run makes me feel like they're trying to do a war of attrition. They're trying to say that they can go longer than we can,
Basically,
which is true.
they can go harder than we can as well.
Yeah, potentially. But
Yeah.
it's one of them ones, like, if you see the way that they're unifying out there in America, they're doing GoFundMe and stuff like that. So they're keeping people that lose their jobs or get fired for being black and all them things. They're keeping them in their homes. They're keeping them afloat.
Bail funds as well.
Bail funds. So it's just that unity amongst your people. And even I like the idea that it's not just about money. Some people are broke, but you're a cook. So they're feeding the people protesting. Or some people are broke, but they're sick online, bro. Their following's mad. So they're telling everyone, yo, roll down. We're keeping this peaceful, blah, 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 blah. So everyone's got a talent.
Everyone's got their lane that they're doing,
everyone's
right?
got their thing to help out in the movement.
Trust me.
And that's what I'm liking. It's like we're not being one-dimensional now.
Everyone's
It's
chipping in, 100%.
Everyone moving.
And that's how it has to be, man.
Yeah.
That's
And
how
we're
it
seeing
has
how
to
much
be.
further we've got.
Because
just by
everyone's
being
valuable.
unified.
100.
Exactly.
100.
Yeah,
We don't just
yeah.
need the ballers and the people who, are the heads and the CEOs and that. We need every man.
Yeah.
Like, it's a body. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every part is indispensable.
100%.
Okay, so what do you guys think of the idea of is it bad sensitive?
Huh?
Is the
yeah,
flooring, is it?
Yeah.
Alright. I'm sorry. Chill.
Open the door in there.
What do you guys think of the idea of like celebs or certain celebs not coming out how like the regular folk are?
What do you mean?
Because,
Like, not being vocal.
not being vocal and
Blacks or
I'm
non-black?
say that again.
Black or non-black or both?
Nah, black. Because I watched. I don't know if you guys watched it, but I watched Ashley D's video when he came out,
Mm-mm.
I didn't watch it. I
And,
read it.
and it was quite deep, because he was chatting about. It's almost okay. So my observation of it, of like how it came out, as in how he started the video, it was almost like, oh, I'm fed up of this.
Yeah.
And because maybe he felt a bit of pressure to kind of say something, and that's
Right.
what he actually said. He
Right.
said, bare people are saying, why aren't certain celebs coming out and talking? And then that's how we started the video, and then he
Right.
went on to say stuff like, like no one knows what's happened to him. Like when he was younger, like white dons left him for dead.
Oh my God.
And all that, and he's had so many hardships in the professional acting
I
world,
can imagine.
and that the fact that not most, but some black people wouldn't be working if it wasn't for him, and
Yeah,
that's
100%.
true. That's true.
But I feel like that's part of it. So like, I feel like we have to remember as people. But I feel like it has on the most, a lot of people that they're saying this about, black people haven't been screaming for their heads. So like a lot of people have already been doing stuff. So like Kendrick and J. Cole,
bro,
people were doing this fake. Oh, where's your screaming now about they weren't tweeting?
they were screaming
But
from time
That's what I'm saying. But
ago.
black people recognize that they were already using their voice from before it was
But
a fashion.
people wanted to dance and shake their
Yeah,
ass.
so we didn't want them to
So
be
jarring.
tweeting and stuff like that. So I feel like that's a narrative being pushed by people that aren't really watching. We're more calling for those that were on the fence or get me, like in the side somewhere else. Because even if you saw, like, Kanye donated 2 M's, but he didn't speak about it. But that has to be commended. He knows where he stands with the black community, and had he have come out and said, "Boom, I just donated 2 M's," the whole train would have been
right.
moved to a different.
He did it. Yeah.
Because once how he's been posterized now is the Trump supporting black coon don. So if the coon don is donating 2 M's, then you know how Fox News and them would have been moving.
Right.
But is this protest? Is this even legit? Are they really about this? Is it just a money grab? They'd have come up with all sorts of conspiracy theories for why we're talking how we're talking and why we're moving how we're moving. But he slapped it down, and regardless, people are gonna say, "Oh, well, he's worth $1 billion and blah blah." No matter
Don't
how much
matter,
you're
man.
worth,
2 million.
2 million to give away. You're getting nothing in return, and a lot of these men are still gonna say,
And
he's
they
a
don't
goon.
like you.
Yeah,
100%.
they hate you, bro.
Yeah.
They're saying they were trying to boycott you. They were saying you're a dirty coon. They were memeing you.
Trust me.
Apparently, man fell into depression. All these things, like, it's mad. Like, that takes a different kind of, like, we can see the original Kanye, like George Bush don't like black people.
Right.
He's still in there.
He's still in there,
He's
100%.
He's still feeling us. He's still moving how he should be moving, and that has to be commended. Because a lot of people, I don't know if you saw, how a lot of these companies now have been going back.
Don't get
They've
me
been
started.
taking off their Black Lives Matter posts and stuff like that.
Have they?
Been deleting.
Oh.
Now the moment's passed, because obviously a lot of people don't go beyond your timeline, innit? So if you post something 3 days ago, a lot of people aren't clicking on Nike to go onto the Insta and them things to actually scroll through. So they posted it, and a few days later they delete it. You'd never know. So it's only because the timeline's bringing attention to it. Like, yeah, I see you, man. But it's nuts. Like, their belief wasn't genuine, as we knew. But again, this has made it crystal. Like, there's no ambiguity now. That these man will appease us so that we keep spending peas. But when it comes to genuine change, they're not on it.
I think, to answer Rem's question about how you feel about celebrities not saying stuff, I think that, first of all, we've got to remember that these men are human. And especially these men like Asher D, British black actors who've been about for ages, we don't actually know the madness that they've had to deal with in the industry that is predominantly white, especially when you get typecasted into certain roles and you want to, do you know what I mean? You don't only just want to play the roadman, you want to play, do you know what I mean? I feel like some of these people are dealing with the trauma and the overload of information the same way that we are. So they're allowed to have a time to process. I also feel like some of these men have been championing for change from time.
Yeah.
From years. When it wasn't popular, when it wasn't cute, when it wasn't cool, when it was like, why are you always political? These people were talking about it. And I feel that now that everyone's on this thing, I can understand why some people are like, okay, well, I've been saying this though, so I don't see why, again, do you know what I mean? I feel like it'll be fake. I don't feel like if you post, you're more woke than someone who doesn't post. Do you know what I mean? And I think even with brands that are all, donating money and I think it's all PR, because for them to come out and say, 100%. Like Reebok came out with their little statement and they said that without black people, Reebok wouldn't exist. Without we wouldn't have a company, basically. And for all of these companies to now come out and say, yeah, actually, we wouldn't actually really be as popular as we would be. For you to be able to acknowledge that now under pressure means that you knew about it before. You violated the thing. You didn't hire black people in your top, positions or in your head office, in your corporate offices. You knew you were violating. You literally sucked our culture. You give jobs to influencers who look black or even change their bodies to look black rather than a black influencer. and then you want to come and donate a bit of money and say, yeah, without you lot, we wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? I just think it's so embarrassing and pathetic. Like, how dumb do you think we are? A lot of brands are getting cut off. Me personally, a lot of brands, I'm not on it. I don't think some of these brands ain't seeing my money again, because you lot must actually think we're dumb.
But you know what? That's it. They do. And in a way, yeah, they slightly have a right to. I'm not going to lie.
What?
And I'll tell you why. Because...
Ren, don't make me walk out.
No, I'll tell you why. No, I'll tell you why. We have the most... We're the buying power of in terms of the demographic, yeah?
It's trillions in America.
Trillions.
Mad.
All over the world.
Mad.
Yeah? So we have to remember, these companies, they've like you said, sucked our culture, made it theirs,
right,
and enticed us to buy it. Yeah,
Can
that's
you
exactly
imagine?
what they've done.
Right.
They've regurgitated
Literally,
our culture
literally.
and said, "This is like
This is what you
this
want."
is what we've made, but mirroring us, and then they want us to buy it, and
Yeah.
we have,
Right.
Yeah.
we have 100% for
100%.
years, blood.
Honestly.
So this is why I say they have every right to, but this is why we need to wake up and smell the coffee, because in reality, our culture is trending and always has.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we'll continue
We
to
need
trend.
to be the ones, like you said, to be in the offices,
Making the moves, making
the
decisions.
big moves.
Right.
If we're not doing that, then we're always gonna be the pawns.
100%.
Like,
100%.
man.
I
So-
definitely feel like economically, these brands know that we set the trends, and they can then predict trends based on how black people buy.
Yeah.
And I feel like if we were just able to harness that power for ourselves for a year, do you know what I mean? Like the same way these people are pooling money together for bailout funds, for this, for that. Imagine the money that we could then take to build up our own communities and have direct control over things like education, things like solicitors, for like lawyers, like so many things that we could have control over.
Yeah.
Literally, like it wouldn't even be an issue.
It's not, 'cause I feel like what you said is true, and it shows how what we've been saying hasn't been matched.
We've been sleeping too long, you know.
by our actions.
We've
So
been sleeping for too long, bro.
we've been talking about
They
how
actually mocked us now.
we can affect real change by being in positions of power, but the people that like have ended up in these positions have got there or ended up just basically cooning to remain there. So it's been blackface in high places because their goal has been to get to the top position, and it hasn't been to be in support of black people, sort of thing.
Also, it's not fair that there's one black person in the company and he's the representative for the race.
That's what I'm
What
saying.
one?
But that's
Do you
how
know what I
you
mean?
that's how you end up there though, because your goal was to reach the top.
It's a lot of
And
pressure
it
as
wasn't
well.
it wasn't to hold black people down, your primary goal. And so because of that, you've let a bag of stuff slide that showed you how these people viewed you. Like, we all do it, but I'm saying now we've seen that being at the top is irrespective if you're just a goon that they've placed there to try and pacify like everyone else.
Right.
And so that's where I'm like, we can't as such blame them, because
We can't blame them
showed-
because we've
they
given
showed
them,
us there was no ambiguity. There was no like we've just woken up one day and we're like, oh, what? They've been beating us. We knew they've been beating us. We knew that they've been.
I don't think we had. I think it's the unity thing as well. Like this stuff about the money and how much like buying power we have is known, facts.
Yeah.
And I think the only thing that differentiates us differently from other communities, and the one I'm thinking of particularly Jewish, is the unity and the discipline of you will not buy from anything, any place. That's not bringing money back to your community.
Yeah.
The discipline.
Yeah,
If you just had that discipline of, bruv, these men are ginnels in us, why are you giving them your pee?
And it's the ability of other races as well to, I don't know, I don't want to say the word like sacrifice because it sounds a bit mad. The connotations are a bit mad.
It's a bit mad.
But essentially, the idea that, like, for example, like a lot of races, the Chinese, a lot of races, if you move to them wrong, they're willing to, like, the individuals in that community are willing to give up stuff they loved for the sake of the community. So,
Right.
say what happened with Blue Story happened to like a Chinese film, and they just said, "Oh, Chinese
Oh my
films,
God.
it attracts people with coronavirus."
Chinese
or
people,
something."
Chinese people
They would
wouldn't.
just
They
stop.
would. They
That
would
would be
stop
it.
spending peace.
Well, anything linked to Odeon, not just Odeon or anything linked to View, cut off.
Don't you remember
Anyone they
when there was?
sponsor, anything.
I think
gone.
there was. Don't you remember that scandal with one of the high fashion brands made an ad that was like socially wrong about China, and they just banned the store.
Yeah.
Like people said they're not buying from them no more,
Yeah.
and that was that. Like it wasn't even a question. It was like, yep, done. And it's like,
And it's not because then when
how much disrespect you have to take
Yeah.
for you to be? Do you know what I mean? Like,
and then you compare that to when they slapped the black youth in the thing with the coolest monkey in the jungle.
oh my
And
God,
then
the
we all out
T-shirt.
here,
And
we all out here going, "Oh, but they didn't mean it like
but
that."
man, then
It's
will
just
still
a-
go H&M and buy
Well,
their summer thing.
It's mad. So because of this, it's like, can we blame them? If you're allowed, like I said, like we started with, if you can get away with
Murder, you'll get away with it.
then why wouldn't you? If they can earn exactly the same amount of money violating us as they can loving us,
They'll violate.
why love it? Why love us?
Right.
Like it's one of them ones. It's just that is the system. We can change the system, or we can just learn to enjoy being violated. But
We've
only-
just got to come together as a
those are the only
community.
choices, man.
At this point, I don't think that we even have like a choice anymore. Like I feel like it's do or die. We just don't have a choice to be so,
Do or die, beds die.
you know. We don't have a choice to be so like lazy with it. We
Yeah.
don't have a choice.
We don't.
Like
You're right.
we don't have a choice. Every sector of society, we're getting violated. In schools, you get that 2 lesson of slavery. That's it. How do I know more about Tudors than I know about African history? How do I
Yeah.
know about that?
Yeah, it's mad.
Do you know what I mean? I feel like,
Bro, how do we know how many wives King Henry had, but we don't know about Leopold?
bro,
How many
facts.
bodies he caught?
bruh,
How many man he mutilated?
bruh.
We don't know nothing about Leopold.
Free
But
it.
they had statues for man.
They have it all over
But-
Belgium.
And then we're asked to be, well, he did a lot for the country. But then
Oh my God.
if someone in Germany slapped up a statue of Hitler and said,
Condemnation.
or tried to argue that, well, without that period,
Germany
the modern
wouldn't
day,
be where,
the
yeah.
modern day Germany
Right.
wouldn't be where it is or what it is.
Mm.
They would be like, well, there is no excuse. Like there is no but. He is an evil man, therefore you can't have a statue of him. But with Leopold and what he done to blacks, it's like, well, you have to excuse the murder of millions of blacks because he did build up a great country. And it's like, pardon, what? Like, what are we doing here?
I think it's clearly evident that
So it's a wild situation, man.
that they believe that white bodies are. I even hate saying white bodies, but they believe that white lives are more important than black lives, and at that point, it becomes a thing of cool now. Just back your community.
Yeah.
Like we just got to back ourselves now because
Mm.
people
Because-
are saying Black Lives Matter and people are saying, but
Yeah.
why is it even what?
That's been an interesting thing.
What going for you? Are you sick? Is it crack you smoke? people are actually trying to do and ah. Is it crack you're smoking for real?
I saw one post, of like an analogy of it. Bruh, didn't get that out.
I'm struggling.
Just get quiet.
I got there in the end. Basically, so it was a picture of I think like a firefighter was going to like someone's house that was on fire.
Oh, I think I've seen
And
this.
then another house, the owner of the other house that was fine was like, what
about my house? Crackhead.
Are you gonna come and say my house?
Crackhead.
And she was like, what? The logic.
Are you
it's gone out
lost?
the window.
Are you
It's
lost?
crack. It's crack. I'm telling you, it's crack. They smoke.
But
It's crack.
the other good thing, or the other good analogy is like, it appears that they only come with like polar opposites to whatever we say. So we say like, we need black business. They're like, well, what about white business? And then we're like, well,
Crackheads,
we
man.
need to help black
Down.
lives. And they're
Crack.
like, what about white lives? We say black power. They say, what about white power? And it's like, why is everything I say something you care about?
Pro-black
Yeah,
is not
exactly.
pro-black is not anti-white.
That
and
is
that's
true.
what these
But they
men
don't want to hear that.
understand.
They just want to say exactly the opposite to what we say. So we say like black music, and they go, well, if it's black music, then what's white music? And it's like,
music is
what are we
music,
doing? What
bruv.
are we doing it? Like, what are we doing it? It's like everything we say, they want to do the opposite, and it's just like, it feels like a child who says the exact opposite to whatever you're saying. You tell your child to sit, so they stand. You say don't run, so they run faster, and it's like, this is frustrating.
That's why white people, you need to do the work. Read a book or something. Like, you need to do the work. because if you're not gonna take, you know, the perspective of a black person and their lived experience, if you're not gonna take that in and take that as like, rah, this is real. If you're not gonna see, you know, videos of black people getting brutalized, whatever, by police, if you're not gonna actually pre-history and pre-colonialism, whatever, if you're not gonna pre that and actually be like, you know what, bit mad, go read a book, man. Seek God. I don't know, do something, because I don't have the energy to keep preaching to these people. I don't have it. Read a book or something, bro.
Yeah, and a guy that I follow on Insta put up a post, and he was saying he read the book Why I'm Not Talking to White People.
Yeah.
And the post was directed. The direction was to his white followers.
Okay.
And he was saying, look, at the end of the day, things have happened, innit?
I can start like that.
Yeah. One of them understatement things.
And you know, it's happened because the mentality of white people is distorted, isn't it?
Right.
So you need to kind of educate yourself and start, you know, having conversations in a way that's productive,
right,
and not just about where you stand in the
right.
picture.
It's not
Do you know what I mean?
personal. Take your ego out of it. Right.
So take your ego out of it and just look at the bigger picture.
100%.
And I commended him for that, because he shouted out. He shouted out where the fact that before he read the book, his mind wasn't where it was now.
Yeah.
And
that's growth.
Do you know what I mean? That's growth.
But I think that like joining on to that's been a big thing for me as well, was like, if you see what's been going on specifically in America with these protests, and then the way that Fed are just slapping white women in the face, bow, gone, putting them to sleep, all this, and they're like
OAPs, you know, flooring them.
It's showing like a lot of white people saying, "Is this what these men are on?" We're like, bruv, I've been telling you what they've been doing to me, and you haven't heard.
There's
like,
videos.
Yeah, did you think we were lying? But now they're experiencing it. They're like,
crackheads,
she didn't even do anything. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, literally.
It was nothing about what did you do. They keep asking me, what did you do? What did you say to him? No, bro. He just went for man for no reason.
When they're seeing OAPs getting floored,
Yeah,
unconscious, they're like, oh my God, that is...
wild.
Now you're getting Piers Morgan, Gary Lineker talking about raw.
Oh, so now they're waking up, you know.
Now it's like, raw.
I'm just sick of them.
Is this what's been going on?
I'm sick of the
like,
bag of them, bro.
So it's like a bittersweet thing. It's like, okay, it's great that now they're seeing it for what it is.
But you can only appreciate it when it's a white person.
Yeah, that. But it's also like, well, what did you think we were doing? Did you think there was like a big black conspiracy where
they think we're lying, they think we're victims, they think we're making it up?
Yeah, we all came up with this big conspiracy together, and we went to spread it to try and overthrow like white civilization. Like, what was this?
Yeah, I think that's
like,
probably their innate fear.
Yeah, like what was
that
this?
we'll
this
rise
thought?
up together.
Yeah, like
they are a minority at
it's
the end of the
nuts.
day.
Yeah.
It's
you
nuts,
know what?
I agree with the idea that every coin has two sides, yeah. But in this situation,
nah, bruv. Yeah, 100%.
No flip side.
There's no flip side, mate.
What it is. Oh my God.
Just look at the video.
It is what it is, man.
Oh man. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
I'm sick. I'm sick of him. I'm just sick of him. And I think even all of us, like, we just got to start reading books, man.
Yeah.
Even black people. Read a couple
course,
books, man. Just like get a bit more informed.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't be speaking out your bum. Like, be more informed as well, because
we have to be more informed. You have to start spending more time looking at the people that come before you, and where they failed,
right, so
that you can not fall into them traps. But I also want to say we need to stay strong enough to not fall into this gas that's been bubbling for a while now, where, like, sort of going back to what I was saying before, they've been saying like they love to flip it. Like, so if we say like white people need to do the work, they start saying stuff like, well, how would it feel if I say black people need to do the work? And it's like, what are we doing here? Like they just start saying black bear aggressive. They start saying black bear aggressive.
Some people are dumb.
And then they're like, well, how do you feel about that? And they look you down like, in your eyes, and you're like, bro, what are we doing here?
Convicted
like,
as well.
Yeah, with conviction. They're like, yes, you got ya. Bro, what are we doing?
They love that one. Got ya.
They love it. You know that prolonged eye contact. Got ya.
Yeah.
Ain't got nothing to say to that, do ya? Ain't got nothing to say to that. Oh, stop it, mate.
Oh,
Stop.
shut up,
Stop
Dave,
there.
bro.
Stop it, bro.
Oh,
It's mad. It is our mazine.
It's
But we have to
crazy.
stay strong to that and be like, nah, I'm not hearing that. Because don't let them get you. Don't get the Jedi
It's
mind
hard,
trick,
you know,
bro.
because sometimes I don't condone vibes, but sometimes I do want to just spin some jaws.
Yeah,
Just
no.
in
Of
Like
course.
open your eyes, like
Of
just
course.
open them a little bit.
Mm.
But
It's
I
mad,
feel
bro.
I feel like it start like I was having this conversation with a good friend of mine, and we agreed on the fact that things start with a tight knit circle, isn't it?
Mm.
And then gradually it grows.
Yeah,
grows.
yeah.
Right.
But by it growing, it means that you have to find other people that are like minded, like
Yeah, yeah.
yourself.
Right.
With
But
genuine
also-
convictions.
Yeah, but also in this situation, not gonna lie, there's times where white allies are gonna be integral.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? So
They've already shown
Yeah,
that when
exactly.
they're actually on board,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
fully in, the amount of minds that they can change
exactly.
is well beyond. Because look where we've been. We've been saying exactly what we've been saying
For time, bro.
for at least 100 years. In my
Don't piss me off.
my gran was
Oh,
saying
not
the
at
same
least,
thing.
child.
My mum. But I'm saying at least like in living because you know
Yeah,
some
yeah.
of these men will say, "Well, was you there?" You get it? So I'm gonna say at least like guaranteed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I've spoken to people that were there 100 years back doing their thing. Yeah. So like we've been doing it for that long, and in what these couple weeks where a lot of these white celebrities and just even the generic white man down the road that's gone, you know what, mate?
It's
I
wrong.
didn't fucking like that.
This is
It's
wrong.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
should've done that.
Yeah, they've done more to like change minds than we were doing, shouting, bawling,
Yeah.
begging, rolling on the floor,
I
grabbing
hate
hold
that.
of
I hate that,
caskets,
man.
everything. That didn't mean as much as them going, nah, I didn't like
didn't.
that.
It
I didn't
didn't.
like that.
It
And
didn't.
so, as bad as it, like much as that like burns, man, I want to see progress is progress. Like my kid's not getting murdered for being black.
100%.
Goes beyond me feeling like they should have heard me when I spoke. So it's bittersweet, but
At the end of the day,
Yeah.
Dave from the end is gonna have more reach to his community than I will.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I
hear that
mean?
as
So
well,
it's like
yeah.
I can't even
Yeah,
take it
it's
really
facts.
personally.
yeah.
Dave's coming from a certain viewpoint.
Mm.
Like my old manager at work, he was really like vocal about any kind of injustice. He was really, really like an awake person.
Mm.
He's from South. He's from Bromley.
Yeah.
So obviously, when he was growing up, the end was a bit hot, a bit racist. His brother
Yeah.
is like literally like a skinhead, like
wow.
racist guy,
Okay.
like racist guy, like has racist perspective, very homophobic, just all around toxic youth. Now they've all grown up in the same household, but you've got one brother who's basically challenges racism in every situation he is, and because he's a skinhead, he looks like a skinhead.
Mm.
He will go into rooms with white people in an all white space, and these white people will now say toxic things to him because they feel comfortable because he's a white man, or he looks a certain way, and then he'll have to challenge it.
Yeah.
And then he's basically saying how it's mad some of the things that people say to me because they assume that I'm gonna think the same as them.
Yeah.
And I had to respect him because it's like, raw, like you're fighting battles that I can never be even in a room for.
Mm.
I have to rate it. So
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, these men are gonna have to. You're gonna have to just be anti-racist and challenge it in your whatever community you come from,
Mm. And I think that
especially
brings us
Asians as well, because Asian racism, anti-black racism in the Asian community,
strong.
brother,
Wrong, bruv.
it's
Oh
visceral.
my
They don't want to be at the
gosh.
bottom. They want us to be the bottom of the totem pole.
But that's what it is. I know you're gonna say something, though.
No, yeah, go, go, go.
That's exactly what it is. Even with, in fact, I'm gonna say Pan Asia. I'm gonna say Pan Asia.
Bruh.
Yeah, I was gonna split it
The
too.
whole
I'm gonna say
block.
Pan
The
Asia
whole block,
because
bro.
it's a thing where they know that if we kind of unite and do what we're doing for ourselves, it's gonna look kind of bad on them,
Right.
essentially,
Right.
because
We're not as
we're
bad
gonna
as
be
them.
doing right, and then they're gonna people gonna be looking at them like, okay,
What's your excuse?
someone has to be the bottom,
Right.
kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be the case, but that's
Yeah.
what that's how
the-
they're
That's how
thinking.
the system
Right.
portrayed. Yeah.
Like someone has to be.
Someone has to be the lackey.
yeah,
bro.
exactly.
Someone has to carry the mule. Someone has to be the mule.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone's got like a vested interest in us continuing to be violated. But
that's- yeah.
what I was gonna say to bring like full circle was it kind of links to what we were saying before with like biracials. I'm gonna get the door now.
Is that your neighbor?
No, it's gonna be the delivery. You bust the
Oh.
door quick. So safe. And then yeah, it's that they're basically in they're basically in situations where they're on their own against hostile, like in a hostile environment. So you could end up being with people that you thought were your friends and thought like you, or felt like you in everything, and then suddenly,
Turn your back on you.
no, like suddenly they say something, and you're caught in a position where it's like,
Raw.
yeah, do I dead this whole friendship over this, or
Give them
do I-
benefit to change.
yeah, do I believe he's not like that and make some excuses like he wouldn't really mean all that and blah blah. I'm not gonna challenge him and risk it all over this. And it's easy, isn't it? If it's not gonna directly affect you if you turn a blind eye,
Right.
but it will if you address him. Then it becomes really easy to just turn a blind eye, and it's evident in all like negatives in this world. So we saw it with the Me Too movement, and how it's very easy for men to turn a blind eye against guys that they either have heard or suspect of doing mazines to women at like house parties or whatever it is. Men are calm to say, well, you hear me? If you ain't shown me video and I ain't seen it, then you hear me? It's all hearsay.
Right.
I don't know, you're not lying. All this, because it's much harder for them to go to a man and be like, yo, or not harder, sorry. It's much more. They're adding risk to their life. If they,
Do you think it's risk? I think people just don't want to be uncomfortable.
that's what I'm saying. For them, everything's going right today, and it will continue to go right for you if you don't say nothing. If you do say something, there's a chance, obviously, the man didn't know what he done and blah blah, and he barley and he said sorry, and you've changed the life. But the other side is he cuts you off, or he punches you up, or he starts telling people this or that. So you're adding a level of complexity, similar to like the way we're saying that a lot of people wouldn't choose to be black if everyone had a choice at the beginning, like pick a character thing. But
if
so it's like if a lot of people look at it as like, well, they have the choice to either make their life harder or to add nothing, like to have no change.
Right.
And a lot of people, they choose the easiest road, which is no change. And that's what's going on in a lot of things in this world, is people they'll just skate on by. Like if it's not gonna have me hemmed up, then it is what it is, sort of situation.
Can I ask a question?
Go on.
What do you lot? How do you lot feel? Right, so let me give context. Yeah, I think a couple months ago there was that whole palaver on Twitter about
Go on, I'm still listening. I just need to
people making
need to reset
black
the tape.
men in particular making, colorist, anti-black comments towards black women. Yeah, I think you lot must have seen it. Like the tweets that were coming up in that particular period of time, where everybody was saying crazy, mad, disrespectful things about black women. Yeah. And we kind of saw black women kind of being the most active in being vocal about condemning that kind of stuff. Yeah. How do you feel now? And I'm talking about UK influencers, musicians, those who do like grime, whatever, actors, whatever. How do you feel? I just feel like UK influencers in this country, not all, some, if it's not like something dumb or about girls or about would you rathers, they're not talking. And I don't know if it's a thing of they don't know how to say anything or they don't know what to say, but do you just feel like UK influencers do you think it's their job to be vocal and influence their followers? Do you feel like it's necessary? Do you expect them to?
I think it's their job to influence, but I feel like with a lot of these things, so I was just speak generally. So for a lot of these things, like if you ever saw the whole argument with like back in the day, like people were talking, the UK needs a Charlemagne to hold these artists to account and stuff like that. Yeah, we look at like the States and we try and compare, despite like black people in the States and just that whole genre in general of like hip hop, that whole movement has had generations to build networks.
Right.
Like even from like they were building similar networks from the blues and how it all like evolved and developed.
Yeah.
We don't have the same networks yet. we're trying to run before we walked, and so we're all disjointed. A lot of these influencers are thinking, well, if I say certain things, what happens next? So, okay, I might reach whatever 100,000 followers, blah blah blah, but I could very easily not be an influencer tomorrow, and then what? I've reached 100,000 people once, or I kind of let this one ride, try and get 200,000, and then they end up never reaching anyone because they never speak. They're trying to get more and more people for that perfect moment, and as they say, the perfect moment never comes. So I feel like we need to start putting the groundwork in, so that they know there's a whole community that is gonna be steadfast. Because we're very like flippant here, or whatever the word is, where we pick people up and we drop them. How many British artists do we know, just us personally, that we can name that were big, huge? They were going to be the next big thing, and now we don't even know their names.
No, I think that's an excuse, bro.
It's definitely an excuse, but I'm saying they're not gonna speak up. A lot of them, until there's a stronger platform.
What's that got to do anything?
Because we expect them to speak.
Ultimately, what you're telling me is that it's justified for them to pick getting a check than speaking up about some injustice because there's no background to fall back on.
No, I'm not saying it's justified. I'm saying that is the rationale. So it's like justified and reality don't have to be the same. If we just try and say, well, if you're not speaking, then we dislike you, then we're going to be here for a long time.
Right.
But if we go, okay, well, why aren't you speaking? And their reason is, well, you know me, if I speak, I don't eat. Then okay, we'll provide a way for you to continue eating regardless what you say.
That's
as
fair.
long as you're just and you're not trying to dash us under the bus.
Right.
Now, if they still don't speak, then we have a right to do everything, cancel, tamper, everything, because.
Look at you.
But I don't see how, because everyone's doing it in every walk of life. We've got people that right now that are bankers. We've got people that are like political activists for certain parties, and they're happy to see people starving and dying or going to war and killing, as long as they're eating.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're calm to be like, well, everyone got to eat, a job's a job, all this. So I don't see why we're expecting these men to go hungry.
That's fair.
Just because they're black. Because even there's a lot of white dons that will come on TV and say stuff about whether it be Muslims or blacks or whatever it is, because it's gonna make them peas. A lot of these men will have Muslim friends, they'll have black friends, and they'll go back after and be like, you know, I didn't really mean what I said. It was just, you know,
inflammatory.
It's gets
people going.
Yeah, it gets everyone pumped up, gets my clicks, and it's like it's a mad world we're living in right now. It's like everyone's willing to do a magazine for the clicks, and it's been going on for, like, we keep saying the world we live in now, but we've come up through World Star, Jackass, all these things where people were doing absolutely sickening stuff.
Anything.
To
get a click.
So, yeah.
What do you think?
I think that like a lot of artists kind of coming up now would, in a heartbeat, and to be honest, are currently doing it in a heartbeat. Like forget their culture for the cash.
Right.
It's not even a question, and it's happening now. Like look at the grime scene, look at the UK hip hop scene. Yeah. Anyone that's kind of, I would even go as far as to say anyone that's probably on the same level as what's the brother's name? The one that's been sending guys to Cambridge.
Oh, Stormzy.
And probably
I thought I was sending them cunt for a second.
I was thinking, what are we talking about?
Stormzy, Stormzy. And anyone that's kind of on his level and kind of that are probably yet to come will probably do the same. Like, I don't know. Don't get me wrong. There's stuff that he's doing that's fantastic, but I feel there's so much power in saying this is where I'm from,
Right.
and you're gonna like it. Like R.I.P. to Ty. I don't know if you guys know Ty. He's a UK hip hop artist. He's the first. He's of Nigerian descent, and he's the first black UK hip hop artist to say I'm Nigerian or to say where he's
Really?
from.
That's
yes,
mad.
bro. Yes,
Mad.
I'm telling
Oh
you.
my god.
The first, and he died because of COVID.
Oh,
He died like
that's mad.
No.
3-4 weeks ago.
Oh my god.
And he's very vocal about carrying your culture through your music.
Right.
Like carrying your where you're from, being proud of it, and saying this is where I'm from, this is what it means, this is what my name means,
Right.
and it's making me money as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't. I mean, you shouldn't have to.
You shouldn't have to pick between.
You shouldn't have to. Yeah, you shouldn't have to compromise. You shouldn't have to. But I feel like you said, we're in the age where it's all about the clicks, it's all about the likes, it's all about quick fast, like overnight celeb.
Yeah.
So it means that the idea of what, like a snap idea or a snap kind of type of kind of character that you wanna present,
Right.
can make you money in an instant. And this is kind of the idea that a lot of not just artists but creatives and just young people in general kind of flock towards, because it's that thing of I want to make money now, this is what I want to do. And it's like they're not realizing that a lot of, I won't say all, but a lot of what they're doing is just condemning their culture and just throwing it away.
Yeah.
And getting like a quick buck, and then most of them it's like overnight success, and then a one-hit wonder, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah, man, there's I don't know if I can only really speak on people like Akala or people like
George the Poet,
Black Twang, like these guys. Well, the reason why I didn't include George the Poet because he's kind of our age range,
right?
But Akala and Black Twang and these other guys, they are ones that we should be looking up to.
Right, and they're older.
They're like the torchbearers almost, because they're doing so much for the culture, but also bringing us knowledge on what where we come from, where we came from, and we should kind of be dipping into that and appreciating that and taking it forward. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's what I feel like it has to be as well, is we have to be, I don't know how to explain it. 'Cause I don't want to say you have to be happy, that's the wrong word, but we have to be mindful not to forget that we've moved quite a long way. 'Cause especially when you look back to even when I was in school, a lot of people were hiding the fact that they were African.
Oh yeah.
Everyone wanted to be Caribbean.
Yeah.
Whereas now, a lot of, like, even you see like a lot of white people using like Nigerian terms or Ghanaian terms, like the rise of like Afrobeats and stuff like that. The culture is very palatable now, so once it becomes palatable, it's easier to show people. So,
do you think it's palatable, or do you feel like there's just more people doing a certain type of thing, so it's popular? So I don't think Afrobeats is particularly palatable. I think it's Afrobeats.
I think it's one and the same, because once things become not scary or stuff you detest,
right,
they're willing to try other things. So once you're immersed in Afrobeats, so if you listen to it or it's played around you all the time, you start hearing certain words. Different people pick up different things.
Yeah.
So if you hear jollof and you never heard what jollof is, and then suddenly someone offers you jollof, you're willing to try it.
Yeah.
If you try to offer someone jollof in whatever 99, they're not even trying to taste it.
I don't think I ever, when I was growing up, I don't think I even knew what jollof rice was.
You see what I'm saying?
Like,
So
I never knew. Like, I never had heard about it.
And if someone offered you that on term alone,
I would
would
be
you
like,
like some jollof? Yeah, you're like, not
what is
really. That
that?
doesn't sound.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound appealing. It doesn't sound like something I'd want to. Blah blah. So being immersed, because that was what happened for Caribbean culture. So originally they didn't like us. They didn't want us here, etc. etc. Like they used to make all sorts of bants like from my parents about jerk chicken and rice and all this. It was a big joke to them. But as like Bob Marley and a lot of reggae artists became popular, and even Britain became the center for reggae music for a long time. But for that they heard a lot of terms. So they heard about plantain, they heard about guava, they heard about a lot of things. And then they wanted to try it, they wanted to sample it, they wanted to go to certain places in Jamaica because they've heard it mentioned a lot of times in songs. Similar to a lot of people that are fans of hip hop, they want to go to Harlem, they want to go to this place because you're just immersed in it. You hear these words so many times, you want to see how these places feel to you.
Do you know what phrase comes to mind? First they laugh, then they copy.
Not heard that phrase, but that's a good phrase. Yeah.
First they laughed and
First
they
they laugh
copy.
and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
copy.
yeah.
They laugh because they don't really understand what it is, and then once they see that it's actually like cool, it's popular, it's rich with culture, then they copy. And they even try and like get involved.
Yeah.
I even feel like musicians like Burna Boy and stuff. I feel like, obviously, when I listen to Afrobeats, certain Afrobeat songs, I don't understand what they're saying. Do you know what I mean? But I feel like with artists like Burna Boy, who he's from Ends originally, went back to Nigeria or whatever, and then he's inspired by. He says he's inspired by Fela Kuti, and everything that he was about. And obviously now he's infused that into his music, but he's made it in a way that's like people who are from London can take him in. Even if you're not necessarily Nigerian. Do you know what I mean? And I think that is artists like him are why Afrobeats is so successful, because you've got people who are using their dual nationality now, they're British and Nigerian, and they're adding things, making bangers, and it's like do you know what I mean? So there's more pride that comes from that, being African, being in your roots. I don't think we had that when I was in school at all.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we didn't
that
have
kind of progress is.
Because aren't there more
great.
Nigerians like in the UK than any other?
Probably, it wouldn't surprise me.
Any other?
That country is huge.
I think there's.
Like,
it's the most densely populated country in Africa.
What's the population? I swear it's like 300 million, something like that.
It's a lot.
It's
a lot.
It's huge.
It's like the most. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But I think they're the biggest. There's more Nigerians than Caribbeans now.
Wow.
I swear.
Caribbean
something like
not
that.
big, you know. Let me see.
I don't know why when I was growing up it felt like you lot were everywhere.
You lot, you know.
Caribbeans.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what?
It felt like, but you lot were obviously the most
It's
prominent
200 million.
group.
200 million.
Okay.
But yeah, that's huge, bro. So it's almost the size of America. So yeah, it's huge. Like it's almost like the population of America. But yeah, like for its size and for its wealth, if you speak to a lot of Nigerians,
oil money.
Yeah, they know a lot of Nigerians with crazy money. Like obviously there's poverty there as well, but there's poverty everywhere. But
Legal or illegal, corruption.
Yeah.
Corruption, but we won't get into that.
But like what you're shown, or what I was always shown on TV here about like African countries and stuff like that, was completely different to what you see speaking to like your African friends. Because even like a lot of the poor places, like they have a community spirit. So it's not. It wasn't like this. It wasn't like this. What we see on like Red Nose Day and them things.
And G8
where man was just there staring into the camera and then the flies chilling on his face.
Going in his nose. And his
like even then they were broke.
They did that on
destitute.
purpose, man.
Yeah, even though they broke and destitute, these man still had a smile. They were still playing football. Like they were still living.
That's why I love black people, because like everywhere we go, there is that community. Like even when I went to Brazil, like you still feel the energy, so communal, and it's like coming back to like Western places is like I just feel like it's not there.
Yeah,
and I feel like even though places in the motherland and the Caribbean have their own struggles as well, but there is, I feel like that sense of community is strong. I feel like I wish that we do have it, but I feel like it's separate for each nationality, each group.
100%.
Whereas when you go to these other places, like even when I went to Ghana, bruh, it's just everyone is just, people are just so friendly and helpful. Like people would walk us so far just to make sure we got on the bus, and we'd wait for the bus and then wait for us to drive off. Like that level of like making sure you're good. Are you good? Do you know what I mean? I feel like that spirit came with our parents and
I think
obviously
that
our grandparents. And I felt like because now we grew up here, we kind of got immersed with the British culture of being stush. And
I think it's something to get back to, because I feel like
100%.
a lot of like places. So like, if you speak for like, I could speak for like the Caribbean. There's a lot of people that will do things. Obviously, not everyone, but there's a lot of people that will do things without expecting financial reward.
Yeah.
So they just want to. There's a lot of this whole culture of if someone comes here and I don't help them, that brings shame on everyone. So now they're gonna talk bad about my country. They can't talk bad about Grenada when I'm representing Grenada. So they need to be shown the best of the best.
Love that.
Whereas here, a lot of
Each man on
people,
their
a
own.
tourist is like, "Can you show me this?" And they'll be like, "Well, you got a 5 note." And it's like,
You got
and then if not, it's like, well, you have to help yourself, G. Like the world
Catch
is
the
well,
bus.
London's
Yeah,
London,
and
yeah.
right.
I got places to be, I got money to make. You need to do yours, and it's like that is. We need to. Like, obviously, it's not easy because, like I'm saying, living here is one of the most expensive cities in the
We
world.
do need to get back to our roots.
But we have to move back to
100%,
just
we
trying to
really
help
do.
people for the sake of helping, and not for any sort of reward or shout out on social media. Or
Please, yeah. And just like, even with, you know, Belly Majenga, it's like that could have been anyone's auntie, you know, or mum.
Yeah.
How many of us have mums that work, that go out, that actually grinding, like, and I think to have that feeling of empathy and that could be my brother or that could be my sister.
Yeah.
Like, and always feeling like that and then putting that forward in action will do a lot. I think a lot of us, as I said before, they relate more to their income than their blackness.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I've just in my life, I've just seen a lot of people who make a certain amount of money or they're in a certain like niche of job, whatever. And these men just move like, bruh.
Yeah.
They move stank. They move really stank. Really, really stank. And they feel like because they make a set about money, certain things don't affect them. You'll still get stopped and searched. But
100%.
still, like, so, do you know what I mean?
And I can't remember who he was speaking about. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was a caller.
I love him.
And he was just basically talking about how originally we were taught, like Caribbeans were taught, like if you reach a certain like class, then they'll start to like you. So like what I was saying before, where they lied to us and said, we don't not like you because you're black. We don't like you because you're poor. So the idea was if you made a certain amount, then you're not poor anymore. So then they will like you. And what turned out was that wasn't the case. They still didn't like you. So it's one of the ones we have to move away from this idea of we can hoard enough wealth to be loved. And it's just nuts because a lot of like Caribbeans of like that of the early period, that's what they tried to do. They tried to acquire enough to not be hated, and it just never worked. It never worked out. Like we're still in the same position.
It almost feels like it's that thing of, you know, when they say, like success is sorry, not success. Perfection is like always the next thing.
Yeah.
It's almost that because it's like
Constantly chasing.
Yeah, you're constantly chasing.
Yeah.
An addition that you want to add to yourself to make you perfect.
Yeah.
And that's not going to work, so there must be something else. And that's not. And it's like.
Yeah.
It's like you're running that treadmill for your whole life.
Hamster wheel, right?
That hamster wheel. Thank you. Do you know what I mean? So.
Right.
Yeah, man. It's
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. But we're seeing positive changes, and that's all we can really hope for.
It's crazy because I saw a tweet that said all 50 US countries are protesting and plus 18 countries
Yeah,
worldwide,
heard
making
that,
it the
yeah.
biggest civil rights. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Don't forget.
So it's bigger than these men there. Malcolm X is
Oh,
bigger
100%.
than that.
Don't forget when they were doing what they were doing.
No one else was-
the South they love killing blacks. They were still hanging blacks.
Oh my God, Dominic.
No one.
Why was it like that?
Because it's not even ancient history, bro. There's people that are old enough, alive, to remember lynchings. Like, don't
That's
forget,
tragic.
Samuel L. Jackson was raised during segregation.
Crazy.
That is why, like, when he was telling the stories about, there was like white only water fountains and stuff like that.
Crazy.
Like when he was
And he doesn't
young.
seem that old.
He doesn't seem that old. He's still out
Exactly.
doing films.
Exactly.
That was like, I
Imagine-
knew the time period, but to see a person
Mm.
and they're like, like that was normal for me. Like, I didn't go to certain restaurants. I didn't go to certain water fountains. I couldn't
America's
hang
such a
out with certain
cesspit.
kids because they were
God.
white and I was black. That was like, that's nuts. This isn't just from a textbook. This is like a man actually lived it. And this man now had to find a way to now chill with white dons
Adjust.
and like predominantly white
Yeah.
profession, blah, blah. But he's obviously going to have memories of seeing Amazine being spoken to in a mad way. Like, people threatening to put hands on him just because he's black. All these kind of things. And now they had to find a way to square the circle and be like, well, that was then, this is now, sort of thing.
It's crazy
Which
though,
is
because we say
mad.
that we're the most advanced species on the planet.
Mm.
What a joke. Judge man on a fine arbitrary as his skin
Just-
color.
just-
What a
It's mad.
joke.
I hear you.
It's
These
mad.
men love to use off science
Yeah.
to be like, yeah, but you were doing it. Bruv, you're a racist, you know.
Mm.
There's not even an issue of mental health. You are a racist. You
Oh,
need
it's
to deal
nuts
with
that hasn't even gone away, you know. So like we
You
thought
would
it'd
think
gone
by
away.
now it would have been gone.
No, I mean that
honestly.
whole pseudoscience thing. Because even if you saw how they were trying to bubble that with the corona, they were like, oh, maybe it's because they're black that they're dying more.
Vitamin D, or lack of
vitamin
whatever it
D.
was.
They were talking about melanin was reacting with the thing too much. Bro, what?
so-
Like, they were reaching for everything other than we've treated you so shit that now you're dying in overwhelming numbers. And it was like, it was crazy to see that we thought that was like mad old and people have changed and like no one believes that stuff anymore. And then
I
it
don't
just
know why
took
it
one little
feels so
quick tick.
far away.
Yeah, I don't know why either. Because, what? It was like, when did he die? He died in like the 60s.
It just feels like a long time ago. Even when I read reading a Sartre autobiography,
Oh, I'm reading that at
like,
the moment.
bro, that stuff makes you really look at.
Yeah.
I remember reading that on the train,
Mm.
reading it, and then I looked up at the train and I just looked at the carriage, and I don't think I saw any other black person.
Mm.
Just I think the whole
Yeah.
carriage was almost white, or like maybe a couple Asians spotted about.
Yeah.
I just remember feeling rage.
Mm.
Like that autobiography make me feel a lot of rage. Like
Yeah.
the vios, bruv, the
Mm.
violations, the thing that she had to endure.
That's
Like
mad,
it's
bruv.
crazy, and the system is pitted against you.
Mm.
She's branded a cop killer. Like, do you know
Yeah.
that's like literally like you're done at it.
That's
Yeah,
it.
You're done at it.
yeah. But yeah,
They're
what was
giving us
happening
they're
out
giving
there
us
was
like cuffs when she's in hospital, in the
Yeah.
hospital bed. Like it's mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just seems so long, like so barbaric and such a long time ago.
Mm.
That surely this stuff can happen now, but it's real.
But that's also like why it's so interesting, because of how America did their thing. Because Americans brought slaves directly to their doorstep, they always look worse because we took ours to the Caribbean. So we were doing lynches and beatings and
Over
raping
there.
It wasn't
over
here.
there.
It was over
So
there.
British people say, well, we didn't do none of the stuff Americans done. That was an American problem. But that's because they were seeing it in real time. Like I'm saying, so people like white dons at Samuel L. Jackson's age were on the other side of it. So they
Right.
saw it. They know firsthand, whether they want to admit blah blah, they saw blah blah. Whereas people here, no one didn't see it. For them,
So
the
it felt
Caribbean,
distant.
the Caribbean problem started in the 60s. And it's just, it's a very interesting concoction, because then you speak to like Caribbeans from that period. So you speak to like my grandparents and stuff, my great grand,
Yeah, what did they say about that?
and the life there was just one of them ones where you're getting vioed and all that, but your idea is, if you make you always taught from school, from your peers, from your elders, blah blah. If you make it to England, home of empire, like that is the pinnacle of success. Once you make it there, the money comes, the work,
LOL.
the justice. Like you can start getting treated like a real person. All you
Can you
need to
imagine?
do was make it out of where it was, whether it be Grenada or St. Kitts or blah blah blah. Make it out. Once you get there, the wages are higher. Once you got the money, all these problems you're struggling with,
out of the hardship.
they got here, and yeah, a lot of them say, a lot of them were like, that was a big thing. My great-grand was saying, the only reason she stayed was because essentially, like not word for word, but essentially it was too embarrassing to go back.
Oh,
So everyone celebrates you making it out.
right,
For you to go back would be like
Yeah.
kicking the face for them. How do you
Yeah,
explain
right.
the place that they thought was a promised land actually the trenches? So a lot of them, that's the only reason they stayed.
Even my mum
they
says
couldn't
stuff
go
like
back.
that to me.
And it's tight.
Yeah, they'll say stuff like that. Like when you go, it's a big deal.
Mm.
But then my mum was like, we came here and we thought it was going to be like this new place and we could like make our own culture. And we can. My mum came young, like in the early 20s. Both my parents, they thought like we could start literally afresh and do our thing.
Yeah.
And obviously they got humbled very quickly.
Mm.
And obviously my parents speak French, so
yeah.
it's like.
So they left the Congo. How come they came straight here and rather than going to France? Had they heard bad stuff about France? Or?
Congolese people have been going Belgium for time, since the 50s. So we've got a community stronger there. So we've got people who've been there, lecturers, like, you know, deep in Belgium. Obviously because it's a French-speaking country, but my dad just didn't want to go to Belgium. He was just not on it. Like, he was like, I'm not going to raise my family in Belgium.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? So he decided to come to America. That didn't work. Then they came here. But, yeah, reality checks were real. They were like, for us to go back, because my parents grew up at a time when Congo was very prosperous, was very stable, very calm.
Yeah.
And they only left when it started getting a bit hot. So they were like, for us to go back, like, we can't even go back. The country's not even the same country we remember. So it's like, we've just got to affirm it. But everyone thinks you're living the high life because you've made it to the UK. And it's like, bro, we're struggling here. Like, it's hard.
And that's a big thing that not a lot of people mention or talk about. And I didn't even really know until recently, but essentially a lot of quote unquote expats from the Caribbean, when they try and go back, they're no longer viewed as Caribbeans.
Caribbean.
They're British now.
Yeah,
and so
same.
they are, so specifically Jamaica, but a lot of Jamaicans that left as young people or kids or whatever, they live their whole life here and they want to retire back in Jamaica. And when they go back, because they spent so much time in Jamaican communities here, they feel like they can just jump straight in. And it ends up being issues because it's a different island, firstly, to the one you left, but secondly, it's the way you're viewed. So you're already viewed as being British, so you've got money.
Right.
And now you're trying to just be blasé. You're trying to mingle with people that ain't got nothing, and you're trying to be like, well, I got the drinks and I got this. You think you're being helpful, but it appears, the appearance to them is, it's like a savior. It's like a white savior thing, even though you're not white, and you feel like you're one of them.
But that's a them problem.
And it's tight, but it results in like a lot of murders happen for people that go back because they've not accustomed themselves both ways. So just because you know the customs, if they don't know you, they're not going to treat you how you might expect. So you're putting yourself into problems by thinking it's the same place you left, and they feel the same about you as you do about them.
That's crazy.
And it's mad difficult, but it's even like my dad, he was born and raised there as well, and when he goes back, he's very aware that they don't view him as local. Like, they know he's Grenadian, they know he's like from there, but he's not one of them.
Same my dad, they call him white.
Yeah.
And they call my dad white when he goes there.
And so it's as hard as it is, you have to work within those parameters, them confines. Otherwise, you're gonna find yourself in issues. So it's weird. It's one of them ones that's tight. Like,
did you know about 100,000 black people in America emigrate to Africa a year? Didn't know that.
No, I didn't know. Still,
it's quite a lot, isn't it?
That's mad.
It's about 1% of the population of them, but
yeah,
it's a lot.
yeah.
It's a lot of them, and I wonder how they adjust
Yeah.
because they go to obviously English-speaking
Same.
countries,
Yeah.
stable countries like Kenya or Ghana.
And because their money goes further, I'm assuming they're not living in the trenches. They're probably living
So I
in
do
quite...
wonder how. Yeah, because when I went to New York, the women's house that we stayed in, they were black. And one time they came into the house and we were having a conversation, and I think that was around the time where something happened with Trump. He said something inflammatory, and we were talking about it. And I just said to them, "How do you lot feel about being, you know, like?" Do you know what I mean? And they basically said how they're looking to immigrate, like they're looking to go to Ghana. And the dad was like, "I want to raise my kids in Africa. Like at the end of the day, America's just getting worse and worse." And these like African Americans, and they were like, "Yeah, bro, like we're looking where to go right now. We're looking what country's the best." And it's crazy because for me to hear them say that, willing to actually like
give it all up,
go to the continent rather than stay, is very telling.
Yeah. For me, the biggest thing was hearing them, like, essentially saying because they've been there so long, they can't trace history beyond America. So when they say African American, they actually mean, I don't know where else. Like my mum's American, my grand's American, my great grand's American, her great grand is American.
Crazy.
Like they can only trace to the end of America. Like they can't. They don't know. Am I from here, there, Ghana, Nigeria?
But I thought they documented them things. But you can't find it anymore.
Not for this long. Because don't forget, they came at the beginning of America.
Right.
So literally, they've been there a lot longer than a lot of these European, a lot of European immigrants. And so that's also another madness. Like you could be European, and in 2 generations you're American, but a 10, 12 generation Black American is still African American.
Crazy.
And it's a weird setup. It's a weird setup.
I always do wonder. Everyone else is American, but they're African American. I always did wonder why there was that.
Why aren't they European Americans?
Was that Black people that wanted to keep the African American to differentiate themselves from other Black groups, or was it?
No, I think it was something that's placed on them. Because it's similar here though, because if you come from somewhere white passing or white, so somewhere white passing or somewhere white, and you move here, once your kids grow up in our schools and they speak English, they could say, "I'm English."
Nah, they can't.
No, but no one would have an issue.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about genetically.
yeah,
They can say,
right.
"I'm English," and no one will say, "Oh, where are your parents from?"
Even if his name is like some Polish name.
No, they give him a normal name, or English name. They'll give him a Thomas or a James. Like it's much easier to be anglicized,
Right.
when you're white passing.
Of course. Yeah.
Again, it goes back to it'd be a choice for them to give them a name.
The same way that Jewish people did in New York.
Yeah.
Well, not in New York, in America. When they came from Europe,
That's right.
when they started coming out the ghettos, they made themselves white, like white passing. Some of them even changed their names.
Yeah.
I'm regularly asked though when they say where you from, and I go London. Okay, where are your parents from? It's always they keep going. If I say my parents are, they're not, but if they would say London as well. All right, your grandparents. Like they want a specific answer, and they'll keep going.
Does that offend you? Because I did see something just now on my Instagram about that. People asking where you from really, and actually
it did offend
the
me.
connotations behind it.
But who was asking you though? Like, was it?
Oh, you get it.
Is it like different from if like another Black person will ask you from like a white?
Oh
person?
yeah. The connotations feel different. But even now, like it used to annoy me when white people asked, but now it's like it's sort of like I'm happy to not be. Yeah, I'm not happy. I'm happy to not be English. I'll always say British because that's what I am. But I'll never say English, and I'm happy to not be.
Your name must be David Lammy. Can't be called
Trust. But a lot of Black people want to say the English. They're like, "Oh well, born here, and my parents born here," and then they want to say English, but I can't say English. I don't want to say English.
I can't say it. I don't feel good.
But either which way, like my parents weren't born here, and then they were born British.
Right.
Being from like literally they were born in colonies, which again is mad. Like growing up and finding out that although they talk about it like the empire is historic, my dad was born and raised in a colony.
Crazy.
Like he was born British because he's born in a colony, and it's like that is so wild to me.
That is wild.
Like,
Wild.
it's weird. It's a weird
Even
situation.
people say, "Oh, I'm English, but my parents are from bruh." Are you not the product of them?
Yeah.
I used to have bare man say, "Oh yeah, obviously I'm from London, but my parents are Nigerian." It's like, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah. It's a wild one, man.
What are we doing here? Yeah, I don't feel comfortable saying. I am British though, because if I do go
100%.
back home, I won't relate to the culture entirely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I am black. I'm definitely Black British,
Mm.
and I identify strongly with that. But I'm also African as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So there was a time when last time I went to Jamaica was in like 2017 for my sister's wedding, and I had a interesting experience with a Jamaican girl.
Oh no!
So basically, I was wearing like African attire, innit?
Right. What's he saying?
And we were in Montego Bay.
Ooh.
We were all walking like as a group, innit? But I was the only one that was in African attire.
Okay.
Like, I could say he wasn't well. He was this, was that, just by the way he was dressed. But that's
wasn't well?
neither here nor there.
Okay.
As in, like mental issues. Or
I
what,
got
but that's
you.
never. That's like not here nor there.
Right.
Basically, so what he said was that I'm not African.
Oh.
He could tell that we weren't Jamaican. As
Right.
in we didn't live in Jamaica. Like
Right.
We were tourists.
Right.
He could tell.
Mm.
But he said I wasn't African.
Why?
Because of my attire, he could tell. Oh yeah, that's obviously African attire. But it was one of them things where it was like Dom was saying. It was like because you didn't grow up here, but now you are visiting here, then you're not from here.
Right.
But I don't know. It kind of. It didn't really offend me because I know where I'm from.
Right.
I know enough of myself to be proud of it.
Right.
But it was like there was something about that still bothers me.
Right.
And it's mad. Like it didn't offend me. I was like, but the fact that I can still bring it up to and say that it's something.
It is something.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's because it's your identity. Do you know what I mean? It's not an attack on you necessarily, but if someone says you're not African, it's like, what even makes you even say that? Like, what are you even? Where does that even come from?
Like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It was quite an interesting experience.
Like even when them OG uncles and aunties be like, "You're not African, like, you're British." It's like, bro, like, don't tell me who I am. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't tell me who I am. Number one. Yeah, I think it's just techie, to be honest. Everybody wants to tell you where you're from. Identity is very complex. You know, it's just a really complex thing.
Yeah.
It is.
And I think even with issues between African and Caribbeans, like when people say stuff like we're all African, we're not taken away from
Your
the Caribbean
side,
culture
yeah.
and the contributions that Caribbean people have made. But what we're saying is that ultimately we've all come from the same shared experience of being African.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the time, some Caribbean people feel like if someone says, "Well, you're African," though, it's like I'm saying that your Caribbean culture means nothing. It's not really important. I'm not even saying. Never would I say that. But I do find that sometimes when I do say to people, "Yeah, but obviously you're African though as well." Like originally, it's harder to swallow, and I get it because everything that they know is Caribbean. But
I've heard the flip side as well, though. I've heard like African people say, "But the Caribbean doesn't have a culture."
yeah, I don't think that's cool.
And then, but it wasn't in a malicious way. Though it was genuinely like for them.
But what do they mean? Because you
But
have
they
a
say
white man's name. Like I don't get
No,
it.
but they're saying like, what do we do that is specific? So for them, they see like the traditional dress and stuff like that is
Right.
their culture. But for them, they only see us doing tutu, like bum jiggling and them thing there,
I'm so done.
tutu wine and that. So
Don't forget falling off
That was
buildings,
so
falling
dumb,
off.
you know.
yeah, doing
falling off
WWE
things.
backflip thing,
Yeah.
frog splash, John Cena
I love
thing.
my Caribs. I love my
But-
Caribs. I love you lot.
But there is like culture, like in the household, we do certain things. And if you go to Caribbean events, even if I don't know the family, you immediately pick up on on feels. Like you're immediately at home.
Right.
The way
Yeah.
people speak in just like not even words, but like the flow of the words, it's automatically like you just feel comfy. The music that's played, there's generic songs that are gonna run at any wedding, etc., etc.
Right.
So there is a culture. It's hard to explain though. When someone asks,
It's not hard to explain. It's very reductive for anyone to say you don't have a culture,
yeah.
regardless of whether you're black or not.
But I mean to explain, like I know that we know that we have culture, but it's hard to say to someone else like the specifics that make our culture. Like it's very easy with certain other cultures to pick out what's specialized to them, what's specific to them. But for us, because a lot of our stuff has just been modified from what was almost Western,
Right.
it's hard to like pinpoint it as such. Because we had to work with how much can we get away with without getting lynched by the slave master.
Lord.
So a lot of our culture it appears Western on the outside, but if you're in the mix, it's very
not.
different.
It's very different, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
that's
it's
right.
hard to explain
That's
like
crazy.
to someone that's not in the mix. We do what you've seen every day at work, but it's very different.
Right.
So it's one of them ones where it's hard to explain, but I see how it could be difficult to potentially see on the outside. But yeah, it's one of them ones. But yeah, let's wrap it up. It's been good.
Yeah,
It's been
man.
good.
Any last words? Any last words?
Black power. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. That's my leaving
Yeah,
my
go
leaving
on.
comment.
I hear you.
Yeah, man. Progress is key, man.
Yeah, 100. Just keep things moving, man. Move for your passion.
Come on.
100%.
Definitely, man. It's been nice.
It's been cute, hasn't it?
Yeah, man. For real.
Boom.